Mom shared photos from their family cruise. Everyone was there, everyone except me. The caption read, "Surrounded by the ones who matter most." I stayed silent. 2 weeks later, they showed up asking me to help with the property taxes. I said, "Looks like the ones who matter most should handle it." Dad shouted. Mom slammed the door. I used to think it would stop bothering me, that eventually I'd get used to being the outsider in my own family. But it never goes away. Not when every year they pack their bags, fly off somewhere warm, and smile like they're in a commercial for a perfect life I'm never invited to be part of. This wasn't the first time. It wasn't even the second. It was the third year in a row they'd gone on a vacation without me. Not a weekend cabin trip or something casual. A full-blown week-long cruise through the Caribbean. Cabins with balconies, champagne in the hot tub, parasailing in St. Thomas, all of it. I found out the same way I always do, through someone else's post. This time it was Kelsey. A boomerang video of her and Tyler dancing by the pool with fruity drinks. I scrolled through the rest of her photos out of pure self-loathing. The group photo hit hardest. There they all were on the deck of the ship, arms around each other, matching blue t-shirts that said Miller Family Cruise 2025. The caption, of course, was Mom's special touch. Surrounded by those who matter most. I stared at it for a full minute. Then I closed the app. It's not just the trip. It's what the trip represents. They didn't even think about me. Not once. It's exhausting pretending I'm okay with it. Especially when I see how different other people's families are. My best friend calls her mom every day. They talk about TV shows and new recipes. My coworker's brother drives 4 hours just to have dinner with her. Even my ex had a family who insisted I come to Thanksgiving even after we broke up. Meanwhile, mine are boarding cruise ships and writing captions like I never existed. I work at a bookstore and freelance on the side. I like my quiet life. I really do. But compared to my sister, the lawyer, and my brother, the tech wizard, I'm nothing in my parents' eyes. I'm the one who doesn't contribute, doesn't impress, doesn't count. So, I didn't say anything. I didn't send a sarcastic text or passive-aggressively like the post. I just went to work, smiled at customers, and ate dinner alone like I always do. 2 weeks later, they showed up. I was in sweatpants watching reruns and heard the sound of tires in the driveway. I peeked through the curtain and saw Mom's white SUV. She got out holding a basket. Dad followed, hands in his pockets like we were about to have a friendly chat on a Sunday morning. I opened the door. I didn't invite them in, but they came in anyway. The basket had zucchini bread in it, which they know I hate. They made small talk, asked about work, commented on the house. Then Dad cleared his throat, said there had been some unexpected expenses, that property taxes were higher than they expected this year, that they were hoping I could pitch in. Just a little. I didn't hesitate, I said. Looks like the ones who matter most should handle it. Dad looked like I'd slapped him. Mom gave me that look, the one where she pretends to be confused instead of furious. She said she didn't understand where this was coming from. I opened the front door again and stood there. She didn't say anything else. She just stormed past me and slammed it on her way out. I stood there in the quiet afterward, feeling fine, not guilty, not angry, just finally done. At least I thought I was. A week later, I got the invitation. A family barbecue. No explanation, no note, just an invitation. Everyone would be there, even my cousin, who hasn't been to anything in 5 years. It was clearly bait. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like taking it. I thought about turning around 3 separate times on the drive there. First, when I hit traffic getting onto the highway, then again, when I pulled into a gas station to grab ice and saw a dad and his teenage daughter laughing over some dumb snack aisle joke. And finally, when I was 3 blocks away and remembered exactly how these things always went. But I didn't turn around. I parked half a block down from the house and sat there for a minute staring at their perfect little lawn, the grill smoke curling into the sky, the faint sound of people laughing. The kind of scene that makes you think if you didn't know better, that it was a warm, loving family gathering. I walked through the side gate. No one saw me at first, which was good. It gave me a second to scan the scene. Tyler was tossing a football with some cousin's kid. Kelsey was showing off her boyfriend, a guy in designer sunglasses, and a watch that probably cost more than my rent. Mom was by the grill, laughing too loudly, holding court with a glass of wine. Dad was setting up cornhole with his usual too-good-to-play attitude. And then someone spotted me. It was Aunt Mara, who gasped like I'd risen from the dead. She came over all warm and surprised, dragging others with her. Suddenly, I was surrounded by faces I hadn't seen in over a year. Everyone acted like nothing had happened. Like they hadn't all gone on a cruise without me. Like they hadn't excluded me 3 years running. Like they hadn't just shown up at my house asking for money and left in a fury when I said no. Mom came over and smiled like a politician. She hugged me lightly, told me I looked refreshed, a word she uses when she's trying not to say older or tired. I asked her what she meant, and she brushed it off like it was nothing. For about 20 minutes, things stayed civil, forced, but civil. I sipped my drink, took a few bites of grilled chicken, listened to Kelsey brag about some big deal she'd closed, and smiled politely when people asked what I'd been up to. I said I was still working with books, and they gave me that same patronizing little nod people do when they don't really understand your life, but want to seem supportive. Just when I thought I might be able to slip out early, Mom tapped her glass with a fork. Everyone turned toward her like it was a wedding toast. She thanked everyone for coming, said how grateful she was for family, how hard times had made her appreciate the people who really step up. And then she looked right at Tyler, then at Kelsey, and said, "We're blessed to have kids who show up, who help, who don't make us ask twice." The energy shifted. It was subtle at first, just a few glances, a shuffle of discomfort. Kelsey leaned over and asked if I was still freelancing or whatever it is I do, and Dad chimed in, saying he hoped I'd reconsider helping with the taxes since everyone else already had. That was it. I stood up, not loud, not emotional, and said they didn't get to pretend I was part of this family only when it suited them. That they'd made it clear for years I was just there for convenience, good enough when they needed something, invisible when they didn't. I told them they were selfish. The silence that followed was heavy. Mom blinked at me like I'd spoken another language, then said I was being dramatic, twisting her words as usual. Dad muttered it wasn't the time or place. Kelsey rolled her eyes and said I'd always had a chip on my shoulder. But then Tyler stood up. He said I was right, that he'd seen it too, that they left me out, dismissed me, and it wasn't okay. Mom looked stunned, said Tyler didn't understand, that there were reasons I wasn't invited on trips, that I didn't fit in. I didn't wait to hear the rest. I picked up my bag and walked out through the side gate. Tyler followed, apologized for not speaking up sooner. I told him it meant more than he realized. The next morning, he called, an actual call, not a text. He said he'd been thinking about what I said, that I wasn't wrong. I told him I wasn't surprised no one else had reached out. He said Mom cried after I left. Dad called me dramatic, and Kelsey ranted in texts about how bitter and jealous I was. He ignored her. We talked about growing up, how every holiday had its script, Tyler the golden one, Kelsey the pride, me the background character. Hearing him say it out loud changed something in me. 2 weeks passed. No word from Mom or Dad. Then came an email, carefully written, rehearsed, polished. She apologized if I'd felt excluded, said the cruise photos weren't meant to hurt, that it was never their intention. Then she slipped in the real reason. The finances were tight, property taxes were a burden, and they were exploring options. I didn't reply. A few days later, another message. This time, a text inviting me to dinner, just the three of us. I ignored it. Then a voicemail, her voice softer, emotional, saying she missed me, wanted things to feel whole again, that family should come together in hard times. That phrase again, hard times. Tyler thought it was about money, that they were in trouble, not remorseful. I stayed silent. Then she sent a group text, inviting everyone to another barbecue, to bring the family together. At the end, she added, "Hope you'll come, Joyce. We'd love to see you." Tyler called and said he'd only go if I went. I thought about ignoring it, but I couldn't. Not because I wanted peace, but because I wanted to show them who I'd become, the version they never saw, the one who didn't need their approval. I told Tyler I'd go. This time, I wasn't going to keep the peace. I was going to end the illusion. I arrived 15 minutes late. The backyard looked identical to before. Same music, same string lights, even the same half-deflated balloon banner clinging to the fence. But the atmosphere was tense, smiles too wide, laughter too forced. Tyler greeted me calmly. "Good to see you," he said. I just replied, "Let's see how long the peace lasts." When Mom saw me, she froze, then smiled like she'd been practicing it. "Joyce, so glad you could make it." I just said, "Sure." The next hour was full of fake warmth. People I barely knew acting like we were close. Kelsey stayed distant, sipping wine, telling stories, basking in attention. After dinner, Dad tapped his beer bottle. "Everyone, just a quick minute," he said. Mom stood beside him, hand on his arm. "We wanted to share some news," she said. Dad continued, "We've decided to sell the house." Murmurs filled the air. Mom smiled and added, "And of course, Joyce has offered to help with some of the legal and closing costs. It's meant the world to us." The world stopped. I just stared at her, then laughed, loud enough to silence everyone. "No," I said. "That didn't happen." Mom blinked, confused. "You told us you would." "No," I said. "You came to my house asking for money, and I said no. Then you decided to pretend I agreed so you could make yourself look good at your little party." The crowd went dead silent. Mom's polite mask faltered. Kelsey snapped, "You're being mean. They're under stress. You could help instead of humiliating them." I turned to her. "You've been the star of this show your whole life, Kelsey. You helped make me invisible. You think excluding me is normal? You think lying is fine?" No one moved. Then Tyler quietly said, "I didn't know they were selling the house either, and I definitely wasn't told Joyce was helping." I walked out of that barbecue done with pretending. Mom's fake smile, Dad's excuses, it all cracked open. Tyler followed me, and we ended up sipping milkshakes in the car like kids, finally realizing we didn't owe anyone damage control. The next morning, Kelsey flooded the group chat with her usual blame and self-righteousness, and Mom added her guilt-laced disappointment. I ignored it. Tyler invited me for dinner, and when he told Kelsey the truth about everything, she turned on him too, but he didn't back down. 5 days later, I collapsed at work from what doctors called stress, maybe too much of everything. While Mom and Dad sent performative messages and posted fake sympathy online, Kelsey surprised me by showing up quietly, just being there without drama. Slowly, she kept coming back. Tyler and Emily were steady, real. For the first time, I wasn't performing for anyone. A month later, Kelsey admitted she'd believed what our parents said about me, and I realized I'd believed the same about her. We were both shaped by the same broken system, her by approval, me by silence. Now, it's just us three, rebuilding something real. No guilt, no pretending, no parents dictating who we are. They still haven't called, not even after sending a hollow Christmas card. But I don't miss them. I miss who I thought they were. And now, free from all that noise, I finally have space for the people who actually choose me.